Hey folks, Dr. Mike here for Renaissance Periodization, Hypertrophy Myths. Today's myth is constant tension. Bro. These are all bro myths. Just kidding. Some of them are nerd myths. We're talking about the myth. We're going to talk about actually the true things that it has in it, elements of truth, little silver linings around the dark clouds. Talk about the dark clouds, the bad stuff, and then we'll do some real talk to sort of finish it all up. So the myth here is expressed in the idea that you need to keep tension on the muscle for it to grow. Constant tension is important. And that especially sets with breaks in them. For example, instead of pressing like this, you press like this, you go down, you press like this. Every time you rest, having the weight bear down on the joints instead of the muscles, there's no tension on the muscles or much less. Your muscles rest, and that's bad because constant tension causes growth. And if you have not constant tension, you have less growth. That's the idea that's being discussed here. Now, there's some good stuff here. First point is that in order to drive a muscle close to failure, which we want for hypertrophy gains, as soon as possible, constant tension is a good idea. So if you never lock out on bench press, you do this for 30 seconds, whatever weight, you're going to be able to not do it anymore, and failure is going to be impending. But if you lock out and you come down, you lock out, it just takes much more time, thus not ASAP, to get closer to failure. So that's definitely something you have to consider. Without constant tension, if you take little breaks, you can let the muscles rest, and thus they reduce how much metabolite they generate, right? All the lactic acid and all the other metabolites don't really generate a ton in the muscle. They get time to wash out, and that probably reduces some growth stimulation because there's not as much sequestration of metabolites, which is likely another pathway for growth other than just tension itself. So bad news, right? If you had a set that you said, I'm going to do for 10 reps, and last week you did a similar set for 10 reps, constant tension, is going to get a really nasty burn by the end of the 10 reps in your rack. If for some reason this day you do similar weight, similar load, similar load, same thing as weight, and similar reps, you may do 10 reps, and because you rest each time, you can actually finish the set pretty easy, and things never got burned much, not a whole lot of metabolites, not a whole lot of close failure proximity, and then it's actually less hypertrophic set. So that's the big thing, is if you usually use constant tension, but then you switch in the middle of your mesocycle to using rest breaks, you can have the same or even higher performance with more breaks, but you end up getting less growth stimulus because you're not taking it as close to failure as you were, and you're not producing as many metabolites as you were. So that's kind of the stuff that is really good about this. However, there is bad stuff. First thing is a theoretical sense. Tension is what causes growth, not constant tension. And tension that gets you close to failure causes the most growth. And if it had breaks on the way, it doesn't matter. If towards the end of that set, many of the reps are closer to failure, whether or not you took breaks in the middle of that set or did constant tension, either way, when you get close to failure, the growth starts being poured in. So you don't have to do constant tension. There's nothing magical about it. What you have to do is take sets close to failure and make sure, ideally, that they also generate lots of metabolites along the way. Here's the real kicker. If you take breaks during the movement, but you still approach failure, you can end up doing more repetitions. You get close to failure with constant tension, then you take a break. Again, a few constant tension reps, take a break, and then go. You can have a few failure approaches, and thus, when you get close to failure, you flirt with it for longer. You do more total reps, that is more total tension, more time under tension, just not constant tension. And, because a lot of times people get the two concepts confused, they'll say time under tension, constant tension, not the same thing. Time under tension is every rep you measure and add up together. And there are breaks between reps, it doesn't fucking matter. Right? Like if you got hit in the face 10 times, it doesn't matter if it was like boom, 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 or someone was like boom, boom, boom. You still got hit in the face 10 times. And if you got hit in the face 15 times versus 10, even though one happened fast and one slow, it's the total number that fucking counts. Same with reps. So if you do, with taking breaks, more total repetitions, you get more tension, and if the breaks are strategically placed as you get really close to failure, you take a break, rest for a second, and then you are able to revive a little bit and then get a couple more reps close to failure and you take a break. And a couple more reps just like that, you end up doing both more mechanical work, which means more tension, which means more growth stimulus, and you end up having more effective reps, more reps closer to failure in that set. And that is actually going to cause more metabolite sequestration and more tension over time and more proximity to failure, which is more growth. So there is a way, by leaving the religion of constant tension and embracing, in some contexts, rest breaks in between, rest pause for even just if it's just the length of a lockout, you can actually get more hypertrophy that way. It's not for sure, but it's more than 50-50. If you take little mini breaks, there is an actual advantage there. Why? Because your slower twitch fibers are hit pretty good with constant tension because they're very fatigue resistant, and constant tension sure fatigue the fuck out of them. Your faster twitch fibers, which are actually more prone to growth, they're going to kick out early and they're going to stop being able to support you. But if you take a break for a sec and then you go down, boom, take a break. Each time you take a break, your slower fibers don't need the break. They're good either way. Your faster fibers greatly benefit from the break, and they may be able to have such a big benefit from that little mini rest, even if it's a fraction of a second or a second. They may net you a few more reps on the tail end. They may have more energy and ability to contract a few more times for you, increasing the amount of tension they expose themselves to, increasing the total metabolite yield, getting closer to failure for longer, and thus giving you more growth in the faster fibers, which are more growth prone to begin with. So it actually looks like constant tension in many cases is not ideal and is actually the opposite of ideal. It's like a needless way to fatigue yourself too quickly and end the set too quickly, where you could have milked the set out for longer and made it even more hypertrophic. Now, real talk. The first biggest thing to address is don't use constant tension as an excuse to cut your range of motion. I know it's sort of unrelated, but people say this shit all the time. If some fucking idiot, steroid abusing moron is doing this shit with dumbbells in the gym, and you're like, bro, no offense, but what? And he's like, constant tension, bro. Shut the fuck up. Get out of my face. That's bullshit. Doesn't mean anything. Get out of here. Like, you locking out the dumbbells and you going back down is not going to ruin your set hypertrophically because constant tension. Fuck out of here. If you take breaks between reps, make sure to standardize the breaks so you don't conflate more constant tension or less constant tension, and then you can stimulate gains but know if your strength is falling off. Here's the big problem, right? You started out doing constant tension reps. Week 1. Week 2, constant tension. Week 3, your dumbass realized that like you are not going to get 10 reps like you usually do. You're going to get like 8 or 9 because your fatigue is really high, because you have exceeded your maximum recoverable volume, because you should be deloading, at least for that muscle. But you don't. You lie to yourself and you go, haha, wait, I can still get the same number of reps on paper by doing like 7 reps and then locking out and breathing for a bit and doing another 2 reps, locking out and breathing for a bit. And hey, look, I got 12 reps. I hit a PR. Yes, technically you stimulated even more. Well, you caused more hypertrophic stimulus. It won't end up actually stimulating hypertrophy because you're so fatigued at this point, you're regressing and possibly losing muscle. You're way beyond your maximum recoverable volume. But you could lie to yourself and say you hit a PR. Technically you did, because you're using rests as an easier way to do it. It's similar to running a certain time in the 5K. And then next time you're like, man, I'm definitely too beat up to run this. I shouldn't be running this. But you know what? What I'll do is I'll run the 5K, but I'll run like 2 or 3K. I'll rest for a bit, run another 2 or 3K, finish the 5K. That rest I'm going to cut out of my time. Hey, look, PR. But you took a rest there. That's not a PR. You're actually in a lower state of preparedness, but you're lying yourself and telling yourself it's better. So here's the thing. If you choose to do an exercise for a mesocycle as constant tension, keep the constant tension. If you choose to use myo reps, you say, okay, I'm going to get 10 reps for sure, and then rest for 3 seconds or 3 breaths. And then I'm going to get 3 reps and then rest for 3 breaths. And I'm going to get 2 and I'm going to rack. That's the plan. You do that every single time that you come in, every single week. Don't just willy-willy randomly take as much rest as you need, because it'll throw away tracking completely and you'll have no idea if you're actually less strong and way overreached and should have deloaded, because you can always just rest a little longer in many exercises and do more reps. Here's the last part to that. Many exercises, but not all. Exercises in which having to hold the weight and take a pause drains you are exercises which you should do with pretty close to constant tension. I mean, you can lock out and come back down, just don't wait a lot. Perfect example is squats with a barbell. When you walk out a squat, there is a time that starts leeching energy out of your fucking body because you're standing over the shit is crushing you. You have to stabilize it. It's awful. As you do your squats, if you come up and wait for 3 seconds, you're actually reducing the number of feature reps you can do in that set because it's draining you while you get nothing out of it. It's net fatigue is increasing. Net energy drain when you stand there. Thus, when you start squatting, just keep going. And when you're close to failure, just fucking rack. However, if you're doing an exercise like hack squats, it's comfortable, it's preset. What you can do is truly lock out your knees at the top, safely, gently, so you don't get hurt. And you can do 10 reps and then rest. And fatigue actually does come down while you rest, standing there in a locked out position. 3 breaths later, you do another 5, 3 breaths, another 3, another 2, and then you finish the set. My rep style, or rest pause style, you can get a ton done. And actually, on an exercise like a machine press, on an exercise like hack squats and a few others, you can benefit from resting at the bottom or resting at the top, whichever way the exercise works, and making each set more effective by not doing constant tension. So the rule here is this. If resting drains you more than it refreshes you, constant tension is great. And you can still lock out at the top for a brief second, but not for much longer, because then it just drains you while you're not moving, which is not hypertrophic or stimulating, just fatiguing. However, if you figure out an exercise in which being in that position and holding an isometric actually relieves stress, actually reduces the amount of fatigue you have, then it is absolutely worth thinking about doing rest pauses, at least longer rest breaks between reps, and potentially even my reps to get even more hypertrophic yield. Whew. That's a lot of saying stuff. If you want to hear me say more stuff, like this video so we continue to make YouTube videos because we make more money. YouTube seems to like that sort of thing. Subscribe to the channel if you really love us. And if you really, really, really love us and you just can't wait to be around our YouTube channel, maybe you'll make your move on us at some point. Ooh, you dog, you. Hit that subscription button to get into the membership side where you get more nerd stuff and all kinds of cool freebies and bonuses. And I wonder how good the AI is. Fuck it, we'll test the YouTube AI. And even adult content. I'm just kidding. It's a joke. YouTube, please don't demonetize us. Really playing with fire here, aren't we, Scott the video guy? And by we, I mean me. At your expense. See you next time.